There is a moment, you probably know it, when someone says something and you feel it land. Not in your head. In your chest. A message you weren't expecting. A door that closed before you reached it. A room that went quiet the second you walked in. And whatever that feeling is, it is not abstract. It is physical. It is real. And your brain, it turns out, has a very specific reason for that. Because your brain does not distinguish between those two things. Physical pain and social pain run on the same hardware. And the consequences of that go much deeper than a bad metaphor. Let's start with a video game. In 2003, a group of researchers designed one of the simplest experiments in the history of neuroscience. They put people inside an fMRI scanner, a machine that tracks blood flow in the brain in real time, and had them play a digital ball-tossing game called Cyberball. 3 players. You throw the ball, someone throws it back. Harmless. Boring, even. Except partway through, the other 2 players stopped throwing to you. Completely. They just kept tossing the ball to each other, and you were left out. That was the entire experiment. You were excluded from a meaningless digital ball game by strangers you couldn't see, inside a scanner, for about 5 minutes. And the brain lit up like you had been physically hurt. Specifically, the anterior cingulate cortex. A region deep in the frontal part of the brain that has been linked to the emotional component of physical pain, the part that makes you go from "this hurts" to "I need to stop this, now." The more rejected participants reported feeling, the more active this region became. Social exclusion and a stubbed toe were recruiting the same neural tissue. That was not supposed to happen. For decades, the assumption was that emotions were soft, subjective, metaphorical. That physical pain was biology, and hurt feelings were just feelings. What the scanner showed was that this distinction is largely fictional. The language we use about social pain has always hinted at this. We say someone broke our heart. We say we were wounded by their words. We say a relationship fell apart and we're still recovering. Across dozens of languages, the vocabulary for emotional pain borrows almost entirely from the vocabulary of physical injury. That's not poetry. It's pattern recognition. Somewhere deep in the architecture of human experience, the brain encoded these 2 things in the same system. And now we know why. Your brain runs on prediction. Everything it does is an attempt to forecast what's coming, so it can prepare a response before the danger arrives. Physical pain exists because injury is a reliable signal. Something in your environment is damaging your body, and you need to change what you are doing. The pain is not the damage, it is the alarm. The motivation to stop. Social pain evolved for the same reason, but for a different threat. Humans are not built to survive alone. That is not a motivational statement, it is an engineering constraint. We are slow, physically weak, relatively helpless as infants for years, and dependent on shared knowledge that takes decades to accumulate. For most of human history, being excluded from your group was not embarrassing. It was a death sentence. No shelter. No food sharing. No one to watch your back. Alone on the savannah in the dark, a human being is very close to prey. So the brain needed a system that would treat social disconnection with the same urgency it treated physical injury. Something that would make exclusion not just uncomfortable but genuinely painful. Something that would motivate reconnection the same way physical pain motivates withdrawal. And because the pain hardware was already there, already proven, already wired, and evolution built on top of it. Same alarm. Different trigger. This is why loneliness is not just unpleasant. It is measurably dangerous. Chronically lonely people show elevated levels of inflammatory markers in their blood. Higher cortisol. Higher blood pressure. Disrupted sleep architecture. The body treats sustained social isolation as a chronic threat and mounts a sustained stress response accordingly. The statistics are striking. Long-term social isolation carries health risks comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We know loneliness is bad for you. We don't always take seriously enough how bad, or why. But here is where it gets stranger. In 2010, a team of researchers ran a study that most people, when they hear about it, refuse to believe. They gave participants either a standard dose of acetaminophen, ordinary paracetamol, or a placebo, every day for 3 weeks. Then they had participants fill out daily questionnaires about how much social pain they experienced. Hurt feelings. Exclusion. Moments of rejection in everyday life. The group taking the paracetamol reported significantly less social pain than the placebo group. Over-the-counter painkillers. Reducing hurt feelings. Not because the participants were numbed or sedated, their cognitive function was normal, their emotional range intact. But because the mu-opioid system, the same neurochemical system that paracetamol partially acts on, is also one of the core systems regulating social bonding and social pain. This system was not originally a pain system. It evolved, much earlier, to support mother-infant bonding in mammals. The warmth of physical contact, the sense of security and closeness, the distress of separation, all of it runs on opioids. Pain relief plugged into the same network later. Or perhaps more accurately, social bonding and pain relief evolved together, on shared infrastructure, because the two are functionally related. Closeness reduces threat. Threat activates pain. So closeness should reduce pain. And it does. This is why being held reduces the experience of pain. Why social support changes how much a medical procedure hurts. Why people in strong relationships have measurably higher pain tolerance than people who are isolated. The presence of another person, specifically a trusted one, dampens the alarm signal. The brain interprets connection as safety, and safety as a reason to stand down. The inverse is also true. There is a cardiac condition called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. Stress cardiomyopathy. Sometimes called broken heart syndrome. It occurs, most commonly, in the days immediately following an acute emotional shock, the sudden death of someone close, a severe loss, overwhelming grief, or fear. The left ventricle of the heart temporarily changes shape. Balloons outward. Stops contracting efficiently. It looks, on an imaging scan, almost identical to a heart attack. The mechanism is not fully understood, but it involves a massive surge of stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, triggered by the emotional event. Those hormones are real. The cardiac response is real. The tissue changes are real. Broken heart was always used as a metaphor. But the heart, it turns out, is actually listening. So what do you do with this? There is a tendency, once you understand that social pain is neurologically real, to feel either vindicated or alarmed. Vindicated because it confirms what you already knew: this hurts, it is supposed to hurt, you are not being dramatic. Alarmed because if rejection runs on the same hardware as physical injury, then you are carrying around a pain system that fires in response not just to a broken bone but to an ignored message, an awkward silence, a social situation that didn't go the way you hoped. Both responses are reasonable. The useful part is what comes next. Because knowing that social pain is a real alarm, not a weakness, not an overreaction, but a functional warning system doing exactly what it was designed to do, changes how you can respond to it. You don't try to logic yourself out of a smoke alarm. You find the source of the smoke. What the brain is signaling, every time that alarm goes off, is a genuine need. Connection. Belonging. The sense that you are part of something, that you are seen, that you matter to someone outside your own head. That need is not a personality quirk or a social anxiety to be managed. It is as biological as hunger. It is the system doing its job. The strangest thing about human beings is not that we feel pain when we are excluded. It is that we ever thought we wouldn't. That we built an entire culture around the idea that emotional pain is less real, less valid, less worthy of attention than the kind that shows up on an X-ray. The brain never made that distinction. It has been running the same alarm for a very long time. We just weren't paying attention to what it was actually saying.